Got it. And welcome this week to the Foreman Boxing Magazine. This week is somewhat been a I hate to use the word tragic, but it was tragic, and it just happened on Sunday night. And if you know about it, we're talking about Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker, one of the greatest little boxers, little guys that you've ever seen. I've always put him in the comparison when it came to uh, boxers as Sugar Ray Robinson, uh, Willie Pep, maybe even better. I always say the guy invented the Matrix because there was a movie that he made on one fight that I was in. I was covering it, and man, the guy just went down to the ground, came back up, moved back, and the guy never landed a punch on him. So I perhaps think that he's perhaps one of the greatest fighters to ever put on a pair of gloves. And today I'm really honored because we got another guy that's I consider one of the greatest fighters to put on a pair of gloves as well. Let me first tell you that I think any fighter that's ever stepped into a ring compared to me is one of the greatest fighters that's ever been around. But we really have a true Philadelphia legend with us today. And it's so much to talk about that we're going to probably wind up spending a couple extra minutes on everything more than what I probably normally would do. We've got some people here with us. Also today, we've got Joe Pasquale. He's here from the New Jersey State Athletic not Control Board, Commission. I'm sorry, one of the best judges in town, and all the major fights this guy has done. I mean, you think about it, I can't even name him. So, but he's here in the crowd along with Dr. Margaret Lamanna. We've got Antoine Wilson from Home Turf here, who's made a donation to Ivan's group in Philadelphia, some polos for the kids that we hope they'll get a chance to use as well. And of course, we got the Eddie Morgan Band in town and in the house. And he has a benefit that he's doing for the kids that's coming up right after the show. You're welcome to come over now here at the Choice Bar and Grill, inside the vibes inside the Choice Bar and Grill. So we got a lot to talk about. And before we get to that, Ivan Robinson is here. And I started doing a TV show here back in about 1997, 6 or 97. And one of the very first guys that actually came to the studio with me was Ivan Robinson. He didn't know me, and I didn't know him. But he was having a fight a couple before that. But then a little while later, he got into a fight with a guy that a lot of people just thought, hey, it ain't going to happen, right? He dismantled, and I'm talking about Arturo Thunder Gotti. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine, the guy that owns Home Turf Sportswear, actually has had this shirt for Ivan Robinson since that. And that's hard to believe, but he's had it that long. And on the shirt, and I'm going to show it to you, on the shirt it says, I did it first. He's the only guy to beat Arturo Gatti, not once, but twice. And the first fight was just a total domination. So we're going to talk with Ivan, and we're going to talk to him about his the group that he worked. Ivan, you want to show him the shirt and show him what it says? I said, I did it first. That's it. And he did. I did it first. But before we get there, let me read you his bio because I think it's pretty impressive. It says, Ivan Mighty Robinson, a native of the Nicetown section of Philadelphia, the former boxer who had a stellar career as an amateur and professional. His career started in 1992 to 2008. He was a number one ranked national featherweight champion. Ivan was also a lightweight and junior welterweight with many notable bouts, including Julio Cesar Chavez and the 2 bouts with Arturo Gatti. Everybody talks about him and what's the guy
Mickey Ward.
Mickey Ward, but that's because there was no contest as far as it might have been a great fight, but anyway, you did it first. He had a very impressive record of 36-12-2. Ivan has been inducted into both the Pennsylvania and New Jersey Boxing Hall of Fame, and I'm sure the international just waiting. Ivan continues to give his commitment to the sport of boxing by training youth and adults in discipline, many of them from the same neighborhood where he grew up. Through his continued commitment to the sport he loves in his community, he became a part of the Nicetown CDC's annual Give Back Festival in August of 2011 by hosting his youth amateur boxing tournament. He exemplifies his dedication by exhibiting youth that are well-trained and prepared to win. It is well-coordinated and officially sanctioned. The ring and all equipment are professional grade. The tournament is 12 to 15 bouts with male and female winners awarded with trophies and medals signing. So they're signing their achievement, signifying their achievement and skills. But that's just a little. That's about Ivan and it's inside the ring and stuff. But we're going to talk about Ivan Robinson, the man, first, and then we're going to get into talking a little about Pernell Whitaker because he was actually in camp with Pernell, and that's got to be some good stuff about that. But anyway, Alvin. Anyway, well, welcome. Thank you for coming down. Good to see you again. We stay in touch all the time on Facebook, but and we try to get each other on the phone a lot. But if you have any questions for us today, what we're going to do is, because our phone system is not quite set up, put the questions that you have and someone will take them, and then we'll answer those questions before we go off the air. Maybe we get a chance to do it while we're on the air. Someone will take them. But any questions that you may have or any comments that you may have, we'll do that. But before we get to Pernell, let's tell us about Ivan Robinson. Julio Sanchez. How you doing? Tell us about Ivan Robinson. Let's start with the Gaddy fight first, because I think before that time, you were well known in the area, Philadelphia, New Jersey, but I don't think the national audience may have been that aware of you. But so going into that fight, you had to know you was an underdog. Exactly. And not that you felt yourself, but at the same time, Gaddy had such a popular following here that, people just thought, hey, this is the house that Arturo built. That's what they said in the thing there. But when you got to that fight, how did you feel first off going into it?
Well, it was crazy because we were supposed to fight Shane Mosley. But what happened, I had fought, I think, 2 weeks before that. This was like a rush fight. We fought 2 weeks before that, and I got cut in the fight. And we was going to fight Shane Mosley. I got mad because I wanted to know why Shane Mosley wanted to come to Philly and fight somebody and not fight a hometown fighter. Okay. So I went to his hotel and asked him why he didn't want to fight me, and demanded him to fight me. So we took the fight. But what happened, the fight before that, I got cut. And we thought that we could put butterflies on it and keep the cut closed for the fight. But the cut reopened. So we was out of the Shane Mosley fight. And honestly, I tell everybody, that night would have been just not that I upset Arturo about a month and a half later. I would have upset Shane that night. And I mean, Shane was the hottest fighter at the lightweight division. He was beating everybody. I mean, he was just phenomenal. And I've known Shane from the amateurs. But I would have beat Shane that night. On that given night, I would have beat Shane. But we never got a chance to fight him. So my manager, which was Eddie Woods, my trainer, Odell Cathay, and the late, great Bowie Fisher, we didn't know what we was going to do. We were sitting around waiting until the fight. I believe I had 2 losses at the time. So people was writing me off. But they couldn't get a fight for Gaddy because I think Gaddy had just came off a win with Gabriel Rosado. Mm-hmm. And Gabriel Ruelas. And they was looking for somebody. So they didn't want nobody who was a threat to him. They didn't look at me as a threat. They knew that I had fast hands. I don't even think they really knew I could box as well as I did. But we took the fight. They said that they wanted us to fight, and we took the fight. They weren't paying us a whole lot of money. But I looked at it as a come up, and I also looked at it that I needed at this time. At that time I was 25-2. Mm-hmm. I needed that win because I felt as though that one would put me over the Escalon. And I knew Shane had just won. So I was looking at a fight with Shane Mosley regardless. So we took the fight. We had a press conference. And I'll never forget it because I didn't have great grades in school. But I was around BC average in school. Okay. So we was at the press conference. And
which means he was smart.
I wasn't sure
compared to us.
Which we was in the press conference. And each and every time at a press conference, they let each fighter talk. Mm-hmm. So, I never was the type of kid to talk bad about a fighter. Even if I knew I couldn't beat him, I never talked bad about him. So I said my piece to Gaddy, and then Gaddy went last. So Gaddy got on the podium and was like, I don't know why y'all picked this guy to fight me. He not going to beat me. I'm just too powerful. I'm going to knock him out. And I'm just sitting there listening to him. And my right-hand man, which was Rennie Carter, was sitting next to me as we was listening to him. And Gaddy was like, he can't beat me because I got the bigger guns. And then he was like, you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. So I'm sitting there thinking like, and I asked my man, I'm like, Rennie, what did he say? And my buddy actually said to me, he said, man, you got to be the dumbest fighter in the world. So what you mean? He was like, man, he say you bring knives to the fight, man. You can't punch. That was the last thing he ever said to me, and that was the last thing I remember. When we went in camp, my camp was so phenomenal. I went in camp, I think, 2 weeks early. We got ready for the fight. But what was crazy, of course, like they said, Gaddy built that house. I mean, when I went in that arena that night to walk out to the ring to fight that man, I mean, all the people that was in that stadium, it was just crazy. I mean, not it was that every seat was filled. I mean, it was no walking room,
Yeah,
no nothing.
yeah,
I mean, you
yeah.
had every movie star, every celebrity that you want that was there. And I just told my team, I was just like, look, he knows that I box. He knows I'm going to move around on him and I'm going to box him. I'm going to beat his brains out. But 2 minutes before we walked up to that ring, I told my team, I was like, man, he going to have to kill me to win this fight. And that was practically because I felt really disrespected.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do something to get my respect from him. I never thought that I would stay in there and slug with the fighter because I knew he had the bigger guns, but I was just in such a great shape.
But your move, I remember you did the show with us that week, and I remember this, and I think I said this maybe to Rob Scott or somebody, Matt, and I remember talking to my brother because HBO did the broadcast,
Right.
and I told you, I said, man, he's smiling. You smiled the whole time. You had like this kid smile on your face. And the only other person I used to ever see do that was Ali laughed a lot and joked, but Ray Leonard was the only other guy that I saw that always had. Ray couldn't frown, because that's the way. And you had a smile that whole week, like you just said, hey, you know what? That's fine. Okay, it is. And maybe everything that they're saying about him is true. But come Saturday night, it's going to be a whole different ball game.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying the whole time. I was saying that the whole time. I was prepared. I know I was ready. I was kind of scared, but it was just like, all Philly fighters just they're gonna leave whatever they have in the ring that night,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna die doing it. Just like I knew Gaddy was gonna die doing it, and he was definitely gonna die that night because I was gonna beat him up, and that's what I planned to do. And I went out there and I did it. But honestly, I never expected that magnitude of that fight. I mean, that fight was so It was just, I don't know. It was just like in heaven.
But did you play like doing training? Like you say, everybody knows that doing the training camp, you go in to get in shape in your box. I mean, you do to get in shape.
Right.
Was there any specific thing? Because as you said, I don't think anybody thought you stand there and bang with the guy. You didn't run from him, and that's what people have to. If you get a chance, I tell people all the time, Google it and look at the fight. You didn't run. You turned on him a lot,
Exactly.
and every time you turned, he had to come to you, and you caught him with a shot.
Right.
Was that something you worked? But did you get into the ring that night? And I said, I want to see how he reacts, or what?
No, I mean, prior to the fight in the camp, all I did was just box. That's all was just on my mind, punching and moving. Because one, I knew I had the quicker hands. Second of all, I knew I could box. I just was a superb boxer, regardless of what Gaddy bought. He would have to actually land a clean shot on me to knock me out. And I knew he couldn't do it because I was just too fast, too quick. My hands was just too quick. Anytime he tried to get off, I got off like 6 times before his one.
Right.
So it was no brainer that that's what I was going to do. But like 2 seconds before the fight, when I walked out to that ring, it was just like, no, I'm going to stand right in front of this dude. I'm going to hit him. I knew I had the grid and the better leg so I could give him angles all night. And that's all we did was just give him angles, hit him all night, beat him up, and we just destroyed him. I kind of felt bad for him, but like I said, that was my definite win right there because that win right there just took me to another level that I should have been on. But you know how the fight game is. You really have to prove yourself. And I had no problem doing that.
Well, you did it that night. Now, in the second fight, was it did you I still you won that one, but I mean, did you feel any higher? Or did you just feel like, oh, this is no different than the first fight? I just got to go out and do the same because it may have been a little bit closer the second time around. But I mean, it was no doubt you won the fights, the round that you deserved to win the fight. But did you feel any difference in the second fight because you had beat him so convincingly in the first fight?
Well, I didn't really feel too much different. I just felt as though that I needed to go out there and do better than what I did the first fight and capitalize on all the things that I did in the first fight and some of the things that I didn't do in the first fight. Because one thing about Arturo, he never changed his identity. It's just like his identity. I mean, he got a fingerprint. He uses his fingerprint. They scan it or whatever, lock him up because that's his fingerprint. Gaddy did not change his way. He hit you, he hurt you, he knocked you out. That's just how it was. and that was just it. I just boxed more than what I did the first fight. It was the second fight was even more magnitude than the first fight. I mean, walking down the boardwalk, I got calls from big promoters about fighting him again. I didn't even want to fight. I swear to God, when he hit me in that 10th round, and I was out. I was really out.
Okay.
But I was in such great shape. I mean, I ran like 2 or 3 times a day. I ran 5 miles. I ate good. I slept good. I trained good. I did extra rounds in the gym. I did extra running. That, like I said, that was like the magnitude fight. It was nothing that was going to compare me to do anything different. And that's why I honestly knew if that fight with Shane Mosley would have took effect before that Gaddy fight, you think I upset the world against Gaddy? I would have upset the world against Shane Mosley.
Did anybody? Did you drown out? I mean, let's face it. At this time, he was an early legend in the sport. But I mean, you get fans that are around Jersey, Philadelphia, New York, the guys that he has, of course. Did anybody? Were people saying things to you, maybe to think, hey, oh, you're fighting Arturo Gatti, but that's like people said, oh, that's okay. If you lose, it won't be the worst thing that happened. But did people really push you more to win it, or did you just hear some of the negative stuff? And if you did you just threw it out your mind?
Well, yes, of course, it was a lot of negative things about. A lot of people said I had a gift the first fight. A lot of people said I couldn't do it. A lot of people say you was lucky, and you will never be able to count on what you did the first fight. But like I said, I knew what I could do. My team knew what I could do, and I was so animated about the fight. I was married at the time, and after the fight, before the first fight even ended, they were trying to get me to do the second fight. And me and my wife already had planned to go to Mexico with our kids. I mean, they called me from the time I left the hotel to the time I got back to my house in Jersey. Don't know how anybody got my cell number, but they was calling me on the way home. They called me when I got home. They called me early in the morning. It was just to the point that, I was just like, look, they want this fight that bad that let's have it.
A lot more money though now, right?
Yeah, it was a lot more money.
Okay.
But what I didn't understand was that when we made the fight was actually made for November. Because we fought him in August.
Right.
We were supposed to fight him in November, but I knew in between fights because I trained with Gaddy. Also, as we'll talk later, we was in camp with Pernell Whitaker, and me and Gaddy never sparred each other.
Okay.
We always sparred Pernell, and I never back then. You young, immature, not thinking about that. I'm just sitting here wondering why me and Gaddy never sparred, and then we fought on the same card. I never thought about it, but actually, when you have promoters, they thinking of things like that. So I'm thinking after the fight, I'm like, well, they must have thought of this years ago, So me and my wife was about to leave out the house to get on the airplane to go. They actually threw me some extra money not to go to Jamaica, to stay home and get ready to fight this kid. I was like, oh my God, this guy died or something? So I went back to camp. We was leaving that morning. I came back home and went straight to camp. I was like, look, y'all taking my freedom and my livelihood away from me now. I'm going straight back to camp. So I went to camp and we got ready for the second fight, and I was just as animated to the first fight for the second fight. And I went out there and I did maybe not as good as the first fight, but I did enough
to win.
That's it.
I think you had intimidated him enough because every move that you made, I remember, I think it was the third round.
Right.
He had a round, he came after you, and you made a move, a spin. He just lost you completely out of his vision.
Right. I know what shot.
And he had to turn around. He literally had to lift his feet and turn around to find you. And he got hit. So, and that can be an intimidating thing to any fight. I don't care who you are, because it's like you don't lose sight of a guy. A lot of people say you can watch his feet or watch his hands, but he just lost complete sight of you. Right. So I think by the second time, he probably realized that he was more fascinated in your movement. Because those were the things that Arturo did not have. As great a fight, as good a fight as he was, those were not the things that he just did not have. Right. We have a couple of questions that we're going to take in just a few minutes, and as soon as we're going to take the questions. Right now, I'm just kind of centering on you and because you've been in the ring. Hey, Pernell Whitaker, Arturo Gatti, Julio Chavez. I mean, Oscar De La Hoya. I
can go down.
Right, that's
Angel
what I mean.
Man,
so
Freddie.
Boxing's greatest. I mean, historic. I mean, literally, all these guys. We're talking about Hall of Fame fighters, each one. Uh, and I guess if you look at it, you're no less than 50-50. I mean, so you should be there next. I mean, Philadelphia has such a history of great fighters.
Right.
And I've always, just wanted to say, how do you pick out of this state? Out of this place, you got, I say state, but the city, but even the state of Pittsburgh, you got Pittsburgh involved in that as well. And Bill Pasquale can tell me about some of the other fighters from the area. But you look at this and say, Joe Frazier, Georgie Benton, Benny Briscoe, Bernard Hopkins, and probably one of my favorite guys before you, because I'm a few years older than you, but who just died. And I talked about him week before last week. It was Willie Monroe Jr. Right. Willie was my guy. I saw him. I met him in Jamaica when my brother fought Joe Frazier in 1973, and I thought he was one of the best, slickest boxers I had ever seen. Mm-hmm. But you're part of a legacy of a whole city and state. How did you carry that into the ring with you that night? Did you really realize that, hey, that's what you're a Philadelphia fighter?
Nah, it's crazy because I can't even sum up my own self. Sitting there, I can't even sum up my own self. I mean, coming from a city like Philadelphia, where the best fighters come out of, that's definitely icon for me and a feather in my cap. But at the same time, I'm sitting right next to Atlantic City that has a lot of great fighters that came out of it too, like my man Levander Johnson. God rest his soul.
Yes.
Me and Levander was tight, and a lot of other fighters. I got my man Lil Jose here from Atlantic City too. So, I was just the type of kid.
John Brown was here too, by the way.
John
Brown. Yeah.
That's my man.
Brown.
Yeah,
John Brown.
I just loved doing what I did. And that was perfecting the art of boxing. Okay. And I think that I commend you and I thank you and the world and all the boxing fans for putting me on the pedestal as being one of the great fighters. But me, I'm just an average guy that had the charisma to go out there and put what God gave me, and that was my talent in boxing. And I went out there and I tried to display it the best way I could.
Okay, now, what question do we have, guys? What is it?
I judged the second Gotti Robinson fight.
Okay.
And halfway through there, you hurt him so bad that I said, he's going to stop him. I thought it was a 10-8 round. And you stepped off the gas. You came off the gas. I thought you had him.
Well,
you know what round that was, like 5 or 6?
Yeah, that was the 6th round.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was in great shape. But I threw so many punches in that fight. And, it's like hitting the bag. When you hit the bag hard, it just absorbs so much power from you, with you just hitting it. And no disrespect to Gaddy, I love him because me and him got real close. But hitting him, just hitting him, you got tired of hitting him. You got tired of beating him up. And I once said before we even fought the first fight, if you get hit by Gaddy sitting in front of you, that's because you're tired. Because it wasn't like he could hit you. If you sitting there in front of him, he would hit you. If you had great movement in legs like I did, it'd be impossible.
And you had him from ring post to ring post.
Yeah, I did. I got to give it to myself too. I was just magnificent that night.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, so Mr. Sanchez.
I got a comment more than a question.
Okay.
I'll differ from y'all a little bit. The second fight I thought was a complete blowout. I thought he just annihilated him in the second fight. But what got my attention, something you said today. I watched you box since we were in amateurs,
right.
Watched your whole pro career. The first fight is the only time I ever seen Mighty go into a ring and start a fight like he was mad at me.
Well, I was because
it makes sense because watching that fight, I'm watching with my boys. They're like, man, within 10 seconds, you had cracked him with a couple power shots. I'm like, this ain't Mighty.
Yeah.
But we weren't surprised.
Right.
I got to see Mighty and Levander do an exhibition at Uptown Complex right before Levander turned pro. So I got to watch Mighty for a long time. Anybody that's seen him beat Oscar De La Hoya twice in the amateurs and get robbed, nobody was surprised that knew that he beat Gotti. I couldn't believe Gotti never took the fight, to be honest with you.
The thing about not being from this area at the time, I didn't know much about. So I went by records and some fights that I've seen, and of course Arturo was the guy at this time.
Exactly.
and I learned I don't count any fighter out.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I met him that week, he just had but he was like a kid because he was smiling the whole time. He was never upset. He's like, oh, everybody said I'm doing this, but that's just the way it is. What's the next question? But
You
Mr.
let a
Cool.
boxer relax like that.
Yeah, you're dangerous. Yes, sir.
Jose Escobar wants to know, what do you think about the Manny Pacquiao fight this Saturday?
And we're going to get to that, but go ahead. I'll let you, Jose. Thank you, Jose. Answer the question. What do you think?
One fight is me being a fighter and every other fighter. With Pacquiao being as old as he is, it's just the point of when he gonna get old. Just like with Bernard Hopkins, just like me. I remember my last fight. It was like I fought a kid that was like 15-4. Any other day, I would have chewed him out. I would have chewed him out, spit him out. This guy was throwing every punch in the world. I was slipping him, but I could not count him. My body just got old. So if Pacquiao doesn't come and get old, I think Pacquiao knock him out.
Whatever.
Kenny Rainforest, the question is, Shavers or Foreman, who hits harder, buddy?
Who?
Shavers or Foreman?
Yeah.
A George.
Ooh,
They both could knock me out, so it's got to be the same.
They can both knock me out. I got to go with Big George. Not because his brother's sitting there neither. No, but I got to go with Big George.
Okay, so we'll get back to some more questions after a while. But all right, now I want people, because one of the reasons I had to, we talked about before Purnell passed. Right. I want you to tell people about your work in Philadelphia. I want you to tell them how they can get in contact with you. You're doing good. You have something coming up in August, I know also.
Right.
And we'll post it on the RoyForeman.com website, and I'm going to get them to post it on the Provide website as well. But tell us about the program that you have in Philly and what really got you, what got you into doing that.
Well, honestly, I retired in 2008. It was hard. I think it's hard for any fighter. Even Jose can tell you, and I know he retired sooner than me. But being a fighter and being in the sport and doing what you love, and that's probably with any sport, baseball, basketball, football, it comes a time that your body just says, that's it. As my dad always tell me, Father Time catches up with you.
Yeah,
he caught up with him. Yeah, definitely, ain't no doubt. He's undefeated. I wish he was in the ring. But yeah, he's undefeated. So I retired in 2008, and I was just like, I'm through with it. I don't want no boxing no more. I'm good. I done it for 20 plus years. I've been as you can see, I got extra weight. I was like, man, look, I can go eat ice cream. I can eat the things I want to eat. I ain't gotta worry about running. I ain't gotta keep making weight. But something just dragged me to the gym one day. And I went in the gym one day, a little young man named Juan Davila. He was in the gym with his dad. His dad was training him, but he wasn't listening to his dad. I was just sitting there, watching him. And his dad walked over to me when he went to get dressed and was like, excuse me, Mr. Robinson. And I'm looking at him like, you know who I am? He like, yeah, I know who you are. He was like, could you do me a favor? I'm like, I don't do favors, but what's the favor? He like, I would like you to train my son. At the time, I think his son was like 6. I'm like, he want me to have a headache for the rest of my life. But it was crazy because the young man really wanted to learn how to box. And he's one of the top amateurs in his division. I don't train no more because he's here in Jersey. I'm back in Philly. So I after training him, I was in the gym every day, and then I started having young men coming to ask me to train them. And I decided that this was my calling. God was like, look, now your next chapter is for you to train young men. So I started training young men. Then I got a young lady named Camille. I never thought I would have a young lady fighting. That's just not appropriate or
didn't seem
right. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? But she turned out to be well too. She's number 1 in her division. I think she's like 108. She's good. She's number 1. She's doing a great job. So I took it a little further. So I'm saying to myself, we got a lot of kids in the city of Philadelphia that's just on the streets, on the corner. They're not in school. They feel as though selling drugs is the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. They feel as though running around with guns in their pockets and beating up old people and all that type of stuff is something that's good. And, I just decided to say to myself, like, no, I may not be your brother George Foreman or Roy Jones, but I still think that I have a voice.
Right.
And I think that a lot of kids look up to me and respect me, even though I didn't think that, but they do. So what I did, I decided to do a boxing camp. So now I have a boxing camp for my youth up in. I'm from Nicetown, but I train at Ridiculously Fit in Frankfurt for youth kids.
Now, for those who don't know, like me, what part of Nicetown is Philadelphia? I mean, where?
It's North Philadelphia. Actually, 5 blocks from where I grew up at, Mildred Taylor grew up. So
Okay.
me and Mildred.
And I want to actually, I want to talk to you about Mildred as well along the way. As we
So I just reach out to the youth. Every year I do a boxing camp, which I have going on right now. It started July the 8th and it ends August the 16th. And surprisingly, my neighborhood decided that they do a give back event every year where they have music, they do scholarships, they have music where they bring in new artists off the street that's trying to get ahead. We also reach out to the youth with basketball, all that, and they reached out to me and asked me to put a boxing program together. So what I've been doing for the last 8 years, with me knowing a lot of guys like Montel Griffin, Mark Too Sharp Johnson, Lavander Johnson, old partners down here, even Jose. We've been putting a team together.
I heard you name out little guys. What's that about, man?
Hey, they young coming up, so that's how I expect looking at them. But I even reach out to the young ladies that are in the gyms training and want to pursue goals on being amateur boxers. So every year in Nicetown, I put a boxing event together. We have 15 bouts. It's sanctioned by USA Boxing, and I have fighters from all across the world coming to participate in my event.
Like most youth programs, you need help from the city and people as well.
Exactly.
And do you get much help from the city of Philadelphia, or is somebody writing grants for you, or is somebody knocking on doors? I know you do a lot of calling, emailing, but knocking on doors. But because our program that we started in Houston over 30 some odd years ago, we started like you. We started on our own.
Exactly.
But sometimes notoriety kind of gets to you, and then people start bringing stuff in and donating to you. But I mean, what the city of Philadelphia, this is a program that sounds to me that the city of Philadelphia should just grab on, especially in the summertime, because these kids are running out here rampant.
Yes, they are. We done had about, today is Tuesday. In the last 2 days, I think we done had about 10 murders.
Wow.
So, the city is really off the hook right now. But I got to give a lot of respect to Mayor Jim Kelly and Kenny.
That's okay, Jim Kelly, football player. That's a nice name to have. Right?
And our police captain.
Ross?
Mr. Ross.
I think he seems to be a guy that really has a community.
He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Yes, and advocate, young man Daryl Schuler. They're doing a real great job in Philadelphia, getting the kids off the street and actually putting the boxing program together. I think maybe by sometime this time next year, I think that actually I can say Philadelphia gonna probably be number one again back as far as boxing, because it just seemed like that's something that's gravitating back in the city right now is boxing, and a lot of kids are really putting forth effort to it and seeming that that's what they want to do. But I feel as though the kids need to focus more on their schoolwork.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. I don't train no kids that does not have any academic ability to do nothing. If you don't want to go to school, if you ain't in school, if you're being disrespectful to your mom and dad, or you're being disrespectful to your grandma, whoever that's taking care of you, if you're being disrespectful, I don't want to see you.
Okay.
There's no reason for you to come to the gym. But what makes you think you're going to listen to me?
Yeah.
And I'm harder than your mom and your grandpa and your aunts.
And the thing about it, when you start teaching them a sport that requires combat,
Exactly.
You don't want them going out in the street.
Exactly.
And speaking of kids, right quick, let me mention this. Hand me the flyer here, because Eddie Morgan has a thing here that he said. It's on the top right here, Antoine. Right there. He has a program that he has for the kids here that he's going to be having it for the next couple of weeks. So I want to make sure that I read this, and we've been putting it out. But it's ETM Enterprises and Vibes presents Jazz Jam Sessions benefiting jazz kids. Eddie Morgan is one of the top guys here in the area when it comes to jazz. And the other day I was in Los Angeles, but I happened to pop up on Facebook Live, and this guy's on top of a roof somewhere. They were playing music, you know. But that's his love for it. And I thought, wow, that's just great. So it starts today, which is the 16th and the 30th, August 13th and 27th. I think it starts every day about 7:30 p.m. right after we finish here. Tickets are only $15, or if you don't get $15, make a donation or something, because everybody that's trying to help these kids, that's what it's all about. They don't ask for money for their time. They ask for money to help children, to help these kids in the community, and that's what you want to do, and that's what keeps your community safe, grows, and makes it even better for that matter. And it's here in Atlantic City, so if you're watching, you're in the area somewhere, and you want something to do the next couple of weeks, and we'll be announcing it every week. Come through here 7:30. You can actually arrive at 6 o'clock, and we can come and talk to us about some boxing. But you can come here and hear some great music by Eddie. And support the kids in the same time. So, and I'm glad to see Joe and Miss Lamana here today. I think that's a great thing too. As a matter of fact, Joe was the first one to tell me about it. So I'll be over there at Eddie's thing next week. So, but in terms again of Philadelphia and the problems that's going on there now, you know, you grew up there. Yes. Was it ever a chance? Did you ever see yourself being a part of that? Because I hate that. You know, my brother always used, he was a thug. And if ever was a thug, George was a thug. So I know that what they call a thug and what the description of what. But you never seen it been a guy that had that type of attitude about yourself.
Okay.
So how did boxing do that for you, or did you just never had an intention? Did it become a better way? I mean, really?
Might sound funny, but mom and dad.
Okay. Yeah.
Mom and dad. Dad was my trainer. Dad didn't let me do too much. Honestly, Mr. Foreman, I think I was sheltered until I was about 18.
Okay.
You know, I mean, my mom and one thing I loved about my dad, and I try to feed off my dad as me being a father now, although my son is older and my daughter's older. My dad was like, my mom was a disciplinary person at the house.
In most families, that's the way it goes.
She made sure that I ate. She made sure I did my homework. She made sure I slept on time. Dad worked. Made sure I went to the gym. Mm-hmm. That was it. During the summertime, my dad gave me off. I did whatever it is I wanted to do. I was not allowed to look at no boxing, do no boxing, nothing. My time was just to do whatever. So, you know, mom and dad, I believe, and I can say they really steered me in the right direction. Honestly, I didn't really know that I wanted to be an actual real fighter, like take it to being a pro, until after I lost the third Oscar De La Hoya fight. And I went into the U.S. Olympic trial. And my first fight was against Michael Clark. And I beat Michael Clark, and I went on to the second round. And I actually called my dad and I said, Dad, you know what? I actually might be good. And he was like, you know what? You're crazy. That was it.
Was there any fighter that influenced you from Philly? Well, you know, I mean, like I said, there's a history of it. So, I mean, was there any one particular fighter that you looked at? No. Really.
Well, you mean one in particular fighter?
I mean, that you may have been impressed by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was two, the Robinsons. I mean, one was Robinson and one was Leonard. Okay. Ray Robinson and Ray Leonard. So
not from Philadelphia.
No.
I mean, like the guys like Joe Frazier and Willie and all
I love Joe Frazier. Yeah. I love Joe Frazier, but I just looked at he was a heavyweight.
Yeah, right.
Like, he's a heavyweight. I was never gonna get that big at that time. Now might be a little something different.
You might be a light heavy, but not quite heavy. All right, now I want to kind of shift a little bit because I want to tell us what happened to the other day with the accident, and I knew Purnell well, you know, just like you did. I knew him very well. He was probably perhaps one of the most personable guys. You and he, like respectable. is the word I could use for him. I mean, other people may say something different, but respectable is what he always was to me. Because he always called me Mr. Foreman. I felt so old when he would say that. You know, it's like, hey, man, I'm not that much. Now, see, I really wasn't that much older than him. But
Right.
he knew I had been around enough. But he always called me Mr. Foreman.
Right.
And I thought, to me, that was like, oh, wow, this kid's Olympic gold medalist, a welterweight champion of the world. But that's the way, that was just his moniker. That's what he did. What about him impressed you? You in camp with him. So what about it impressed you with him?
It's crazy. I'm getting teary-eyed.
I know it's kind of hard not to. I know.
Like I said, in order for you to be a manager and a promoter, you really have to know your fighters, and not just so-called your fighter that you deal with, other fighters in the world, throughout the world, and the Duvas at the time, which was main events that I was with. That, of course, Meldrick, Purnell, Mark Breland, Evander Holyfield, and Tyrell Biggs all signed with in '84.
All you guys out of Philly, then, right? I mean,
no, it's just me, Meldrick, and Tyrell.
Okay, that's why Evander was out of Atlanta.
Out of Atlanta, right? But was Mark Breland?
Breland's from New York, right?
From
In New York, Brooklyn.
from
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
from Brooklyn, New York.
And Virginia.
Okay.
Purnell from Norfolk. It was like I said. It's ironic. I met Purnell in 1991 when him and Meldrick fought in Philly. Meldrick, I think he might have just won the WBA title. I'm not sure, but I know he was defending it, and that was the first time I ever seen Meldrick go down in that fight. He went down twice, and he won. He still won. Of course, Purnell didn't have no punching power like that. He was just a masterful defensive fighter, quick hands, and he was just slippery, man. And he just beat the mess out of Harold Brazier. I was like, my God. I mean, like, is he gonna go to jail after the fight or what? That was a great fight. And I met him afterwards. We talked for a minute. He was really excited about being in Philly. I guess that was his second home because come find out him and Meldrick was really tight. And then I didn't see him for a while. But then I turned pro a year later, and in 95, right? I was getting ready to fight Philip Holiday for the world title, and they sent me to Virginia. So I'm sitting there saying, like, Virginia. I'm like, what's in Virginia? Then I thought about it. I was like, Purnell from Virginia. We went down to Virginia. That's when I first met Otero. We go down to Virginia, and we sparring down Virginia. But the thing about it, I never sparred Purnell at the time, and I never sparred Gaddy at the time. It was a guy named Robbie Pena from Australia that was down there. Me and him did a lot of fighting for me to get ready for that fight, and Gaddy and Purnell was sparring a lot. So, after me and Robbie, because, they have certain times for us to train. Mm-hmm. I know I had to train early because I was a young guy, and Gaddy and Purnell trained later. So I always had time to go see Purnell and Gaddy spar. And it was just amazing how that Purnell was just so quick. It was just so amazing how, this man Gaddy would throw a punch and it would just miss Purnell by this much. And I'm sitting there like, wow. And at that time, I don't even think the Matrix was out.
Yeah, right.
But I'm sitting there like, this man is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they went on for weeks, and I think I had like 2 weeks left to finish up before my title fight. And me and Purnell got pretty close. He was talking to me. I was just up under the banner of main events. I just came up under them. Gaddy was already under him. And me and Purnell talked a couple times. It was funny too. This is how I knew that I wanted to be a star. Purnell took me and Gaddy to the mall in Virginia. And my hand strike me down, guy. Purnell took me and Gaddy to the sneaker store and to another clothing store. And when we walked in the store with Purnell didn't have to pay a dime for nothing he got. And I think Purnell must have bought about $1,500 worth of clothes for me, him, and Gaddy. He did not pay a dime. I was like, Lord Jesus, I want to be just like this man. But those were the things that he did. Also, he was a big brother. He talked a lot. And he just made sure that we were good. He made sure that we ran. He made sure that we trained hard, and made sure that we understood what it was that we was doing and how to be champions. Gaddy, I think Gaddy wasn't champion, but he was getting ready to fight for a title, and I was hoping I was getting ready to win the title in a couple of weeks, which I didn't. But he taught us how to be young men. He taught us how to carry ourselves in the neighborhood, in the street, around other fighters, what to say, how to say it. Purnell was definitely a great dresser as well as a sharpshooter too.
Yes, he was.
So he taught us how to dress too. He got a little bit of Gaddy to change his way, but after a while, Gaddy went back to being Gaddy. And it was just ironic, he sparred Gaddy, and I was just seeing how good he was and everything. But who would know a year and a half later that I would get a call from Purnell to come to camp with him in San Antonio to get ready with him for the Oscar De La Hoya
fight. Right? Now, and speaking of those two fights, I'm sorry, that particular fight, but there's two fights I really want to look at. De La Hoya fight and the Chavez fight. I did the broadcast for the Chavez fight. It was in the Alamo Dome. And after that fight it was clear at first. Now, I'm not a judge. So I really hate saying that. I say clear because it's just probably things I don't see. But I've been boxing enough sometimes to think I can halfway know. And that was a fight I think everybody thought that Purnell Whitaker had won this fight. And so I sit there, and they brought him into, I think it was Jimmy Lennon Jr. And they came in, and I'm like, they did this, and they did this, stop. And I was working with it wasn't Al Michaels, Al Bernstein, one of the guys I was doing the commentary with. And I told them something's changed here. I don't know what it is. I had no idea, and I don't ever like saying, "Oh, well, this," but it's just like something changed. The people in the Astrodome, in the Alamo Dome, and we're talking about 80,000 people, I guess, was in that place was packed, yes, and I would probably say that 79,000 of them were, Latinos for Chavez, but they had accepted the fact that Purnell Whitaker had won that fight because they were just amazed at the moves that Purnell did, and he could not land a punch on this guy. Some, but not effectively.
Right.
And you talk about the matrix, but someone told me that after the move that Purnell had made in one round came, they seen him do this. The one where he bends all the way back and everything just goes in front of him. He's looking at that. That was actually copied. I'd heard that before, but when the decision came, if you seen that fight,
I seen it.
What did you think?
State robbery. They stuck him up with a gun. Purnell was scared. They just stuck him up and took it. They ran over him with a truck and they let him live. They hit him with bats. Whatever you want to say, how the fight went, they just completely robbed him. And I think that was like a turning point in boxing. I really do. Because, no disrespect, Stevie Wonder ain't had to see that fight. He could have told by just the way it was going that Purnell was winning that fight. And it was just, he did everything magnificent. I don't even think if I wanted to say he was off, he wasn't off. Mm-hmm. Everything was so crisp. He was getting out the way. He was elusive. His feet was all going every way he wanted them to go. If his body was telling him to go one way and his mind was telling him to go another way, it didn't matter because he was still getting out the way. And the thing about it, it's not like when you always taught in boxing, you make a guy miss, you count. Mm-hmm. Purnell was making this guy miss and not even hitting him in time.
Yeah,
look, you missed me. So what? I'm not even gonna be there. Then it was times he was missing him, and Purnell was hitting him with like 8, 9, 10 piece combinations. I'm sitting there like, who does that? So
I thought in the De La Hoya fight, personally, the same thing. I thought he won the De La Hoya fight. It was a closer fight because I think by this time, maybe even Purnell was a little bit slowing down. But I tell you what, the life of a fighter is a lonely thing at most. People
don't understand that.
And I really.
Well, I'm not gonna say people don't understand.
No, I don't think. No, I don't.
Don't.
Because you know what? And this is not even about my brother. It's just that I knew that there were many times in my life he would come to our house. My mother's home, come home, right? Just had a fight or whatever, or getting ready for one, and he just spent a lot of time in the bedroom, just sleeping, resting, thinking. So, and people go like, well, is George there? Yeah, well, but he's sleeping. Sometimes people don't understand that, but the life of a fighter is pretty lonely. So it's not, your team becomes when you go to training camp and all those kind of things. But in general, it's a lonely thing. So sometimes even after the career is over and the things that maybe Purnell may have been set up on, the problems he had with drinking and the drug thing too. Tell us a little about the possibility, what you stop. The crowd is no longer cheering, but you're there. You go out, you go home. What's that feel like?
Well, you do get lonely. No, there's no question about it. You do get lonely. You try to find avenues to keep you above level, to keep you insane, to do the things that you love doing, how you love doing it. And I think I always tell my friends, I tell my man Mike, I tell my girl, I tell my kids, I think the best thing for me and how it works for me is that I'm still in it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still able to go to schools and talk to kids. I'm able to set up programs to help the kids. I try to influence any and everybody. It could be a 7-year-old kid. I try to influence him as much as I can. Tell him the right thing. Don't tell him the wrong thing. Treat these kids to a point where they want to understand what it is that you're trying to reach out to them for them to grasp on. Because if they have no way of grasping on what you're saying or grabbing on to you at all, they lost. They lost at the end of the day.
So in the world of boxing, because it's basically when it's over, it's over.
It's over.
It's not so hard sometimes to fall into the habits maybe that a younger Purnell Whitaker did. Because I've been talking to him recently, quite often. We were setting up some autograph signing and stuff for him to do.
Right.
And a friend of mine, Star Johnson, down in Houston, who takes him all around to different places. Was taking him at the time to different places, and he really seemed like he was starting to get his life together. I even looked at him having to come down and work with my son Jonathan in Houston, and George and I talked about that.
Right.
And perhaps so it's just to see this how the tragic way that it happened, and nobody could have ever predicted it. I guess very few of us know how we're going to go, but the shock of it came from him. Here's a guy that was one of perhaps the most receptive, as you say, defensive fighters ever, that would get hit by a oncoming truck or a car. That just makes it. I'm not sure. I think it was a truck or something they said that hit him, or was it a car? I'm not exactly sure, but it was an automobile. But you would think that the perception would be enough for him. But that's why I think, and I had someone tell me that. He said, man, this guy had his peripheral and all this. I said, but the thing about it, you walk out, you step out on the corner, car comes around the street, and it's not your vision. Sometimes it's the other guy that doesn't have his vision. Right. And that's what happened. But Purnell Whitaker, in my opinion, is one of the greatest fighters. And like I said, I think all fighters that put on the pair of gloves are great to me. And especially what you guys achieved at the same time, that makes it even better.
Right.
But so what do you say? You have a son.
Yes, sir.
Right? And a daughter, am I correct?
Yes,
a
sir.
son and a daughter. Did they show much interest in the sport itself? Not at all.
Not at all. But I tried,
but in working, but your accomplishment that you made in working with the children is exciting. I'm looking forward to that myself. I didn't know that it was actually annually, and a lot of times my wife and I travel, so we're not here a lot. But this year I'm going to push it to be. Because I want to come down and be supportive of your event. But again, tell us before we go. Tell us a little bit more. Oh no, I can't. I know we're going to take a couple of extra minutes because let's talk about Thurman and Pacquiao this weekend. Let's talk about the fight itself. I know someone asked you who you think is going to win, but what do you see that Thurman has to do? Because if there's anybody in the welterweight division, and you can correct me if I'm right, between Errol Spence and now Tyrone Crawford. What is Tyrone?
Terrence.
Oh yeah. Hey, I blame mine on the age, guys. Y'all can one too. But Terrence Crawford and him, and even Danny at one, I think it has to go in that mix. But and even what's the other kid name from Porter? Is that name Sean Porter? I mean, so what does Thurman to a lot of people? Oh, the battery's getting low on my thing here. So if we lose your feed, it's not us. It's the tech people that's working the battery. But what does Thurman have to do to win this fight against Manny Pacquiao?
The same thing I did when I fought Gaddy. Don't care. I mean, he has to be really. He's not an aggressive fighter. He's not. I mean, he sometimes you do press the fight, but he has to really be aggressive. I mean, Pacquiao has really great legs. At this point right now in Pacquiao career, like I had said to the gentleman who asked me the question earlier. With Pacquiao, it's just a matter of what's going to happen. Is he going to wake up on Saturday morning and go down to the ring and go to walk in and he going to get tired?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, or is he going to be able to move for 12 rounds or be on his feet for at least 6 rounds? Those are things that I think Thurman need to go out there and test early. You know, he has to be to the point where, like it was when I was with Gaddy, you have to take chances. And I know it's kind of hard to say because boxing is a sport that you don't want to take chances. You try not to take chances. You try to be at the best at all times. You try to be perceptive of what's going to happen and be in the right place at the right time. But sometimes you just have to dig deep and just be like, look, this is what it is, and this is what I have to do. And I think that's what Thurman has to do. Thurman has to go in there and give it his all, be Rudy and Ruddy with it, and just go full pledge at Pacquiao. See if he can get him tired, or if he can extend on throwing a lot of punches in the first maybe 4 rounds, and see what happens after that. But honestly, the whole fight, I think Pacquiao can do what he needs to do to win the fight. I don't think Pacquiao had a knockout in like.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Been a
but
minute.
I actually seeing this fight that I think Pacquiao will knock Thurman out in 6 rounds.
He was a 41, 42-year-old guy. I think was like 41. He's favored over Keith Thurman, who was the WBA champion or something. I think he had the WBA championship at one time, and he gave it up because he hurt his shoulder or something. Right. And he didn't make the title defenses that he needed. I mean, did he still have another title? Yeah. Okay, he still has another title. Which one it is, but here it is that this 41-year-old guy against a 31-year-old fighter, and a good guy, good fighter. He's from New York. He's the underdog because everywhere I look, everybody is saying that Pacquiao. But I think honestly, I do believe not. They can say this is the night that Manny got old, but I don't believe that's going to be the reason. I just do believe that Thurman is going to show up Saturday night. Everybody shakes their head, but I'm telling you, I don't make many announcements in calling fights, but it's 2 fights. And that seemed to be the problem with him. But it's 2 fights that I've always looked at that everybody asks me about. And one was Bernard Hopkins when he fought Trinidad, and I told him Bernard would get him. It'll be later in the rounds, but Bernard would get it. And that's exactly what happened because Trinidad he stayed too close to Bernard, and Bernard had him down. And I believe in this fight, Man is going to be the aggressor because I think he's going to have. I don't think that because he has to be, but he will be. He will be the aggressor, and I just believe that Keith is going to do a job. He
has a chance of catching Pacquiao coming in, but if he don't, he's not going to.
He's not. Well, that's what makes it. July the 20th. July the 20th, Saturday night. Now there's a show in Atlantic City also the same night, if I'm correct. Exactly. Over at Showboat. Yep. At the Showboat that the LaManna family is having. I don't know if Cornflake's on the card or not. I'm not sure who the main event fight is. Okay, Cornflake is the main event. Anybody know ticket prices, the time it starts? Or I'm assuming 7 o'clock. If you get there, you won't miss much. Okay, but and they've had some great shows over. They've been keeping boxing pretty busy in this area, so I'm glad for that. So let's try to keep it up. Come by and support these fights. And I intended to actually have one of the kids to come by, but Ivan was here, and I'm glad because he gave us. And we still didn't catch. We're going to have him back because we didn't catch up on most of the stuff that we want to talk about. And there's just a lot I want to talk about.
Have no problem. I'll come back anytime you want.
Well, appreciate it. As always, we want you to thank you for tuning in here on Provide, and to those of you on Facebook. I think we may have lost the feed, and we're sorry. We apologize for that. Well, don't and he's saying it now. But we want to thank you for turning into Provide TV. And as always, we'll see you at the fights.
He was online. Was you online? Yeah. I don't know.
Mighty's man.
Yeah, that's one.
It was the fight at MGM in Maryland.
I get to talk.
Oh, what? That's right. Still is, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I be asking those. I'm always asking.